For centuries, a figure has moved in the shadows of our collective consciousness, towering, elusive, draped in the wildness of the unknown. They call it Sasquatch in the Pacific Northwest, Yeti in the Himalayas, and Almas in the icy reaches of Siberia. Names change, but the story endures, whispered across campfires and etched into folklore, a creature half seen, half imagined, always just beyond reach. But what are we truly chasing? Is Bigfoot a relic of the Pleistocene epoch, a survivor of an ancient lineage long thought extinct? Or is it something born not of the wilderness, but of our own restless minds, a reflection of our need to believe that the world still holds secrets no map can capture? To search for Bigfoot is to step into a boundary land, where science and myth blur, and every footprint in the forest carries the weight of possibility. This is not merely the story of a creature, it is the story of us, of our enduring fascination with the unexplained, our hunger for mystery in a world increasingly defined by certainty. Through sightings and science, hoaxes and hope, Bigfoot has become more than a cryptid. It has become a symbol of the untamed, of the undiscovered, of the part of us that resists the idea that all questions have answers. So we follow the footprints step by step, not just into the forests where Bigfoot is said to roam, but into the deeper wilderness of human imagination. What we find there may tell us more about ourselves than it does about the creature we call Bigfoot. Long before settlers mapped the wilderness and gave names to mountains and rivers, the land held stories that transcended generations. Among the Coast Salish peoples, there was Sasquatch, a being of immense power, its existence woven into the fabric of their spiritual understanding. It was said that Sasquatch moved silently through the forests, unseen except by those who ventured too far, too carelessly. Its presence was both a warning and a promise. The forest belonged to something older, something greater. The Lummi people shared tales of Tiesu Mukwus, a creature whose intelligence rivaled that of humans, yet whose connection to the natural world made it far more powerful. Tiesu Mukwus could vanish like smoke, leaving behind only immense footprints to suggest its passage. The Estai Erlis spoke of these beings not as solitary wanderers, but as families, whole clans of creatures living parallel lives within the wilderness. To them, these beings were not monsters, but guardians, existing to preserve the sanctity of the land. Among the Cowlitz, there were whispers of Sti-Yama, known to settlers as the Stick Indians. These figures, half hidden in the shadows of the trees, were said to have powers far beyond human comprehension. They could mimic voices, create illusions, and lead even the most experienced travelers astray. To those who dismissed them as mere folklore, the elders would warn, "Dismiss them at your peril." Farther north, the Koyukon Athabascans told of Nantina, a shapeshifter capable of becoming one with its surroundings. Hunters claimed that Nantina could watch them unseen, its sharp intelligence making it as much a predator as the animals they pursued. The stories carried a consistent message. The wilderness belonged to Nantina, and those who disrespected it might find themselves facing something they could not comprehend. What is remarkable about these stories is not merely their richness, but their striking consistency. Across the vast expanse of North America, spanning cultures, languages, and geographies, the details align. A towering figure covered in hair, with uncanny intelligence and an ability to vanish without a trace, a being that serves as both protector and punisher, embodying the boundaries between humanity and the untamed world. How is it that so many distinct cultures, separated by mountains, rivers, and centuries, converged on such similar depictions? Some suggest these legends point to real encounters, brief glimpses of a creature yet unidentified, its existence never fully proven yet impossible to ignore. Others argue that these stories reflect a shared human instinct, to make sense of the shadows, to give shape to the unknowable. Perhaps both explanations hold truth. Whether rooted in fact or born of imagination, the legends of Sasquatch endure because they speak to something universal, the understanding that the wilderness is alive, powerful, and deserving of respect. These beings, in all their forms, serve as guardians, not just of the forests, but of the ancient balance that humanity so often forgets. In this convergence of stories, one thing is clear. Sasquatch is not merely a creature of the wilderness, it is a bridge between worlds, a reminder that not all questions have answers, and not all mysteries demand resolution. To walk into the forest is to step into a space where these legends still breathe, where the footprints of the past linger, and where the presence of something greater is felt in the silence of the trees. In the winter of 1811, David Thompson, a fur trader and surveyor renowned for his meticulous records, ventured into the frozen wilderness of the Canadian Rockies. Snow lay deep across the landscape, muffling the sounds of the forest and cloaking the world in an eerie stillness. It was in this silence, somewhere along the Athabasca River, that Thompson stumbled upon something extraordinary. Tracks pressed deeply into the snow, larger than any he had ever seen. They stretched ahead in a measured line, each print distinct and impossibly wide, the toes splayed like those of a giant. The cold air seemed to press closer, the forest more watchful. Thompson, a man of science and reason, paused to document the discovery. He measured the tracks at 14 inches in length, with a stride far beyond that of any known animal. His disciplined mind considered the possibilities. Could it have been a bear, its hind and forepaws overlapping to create an illusion of size? Yet the precision of the prints nagged at him, refusing to fit neatly into explanation. In his journal he admitted his perplexity but refrained from speculation. This was not the work of a creature he could identify, and that was perhaps the most unsettling thought of all. Thompson's discovery was not an isolated event. Similar stories had been murmured along the trails of early North America, shared around fires by fur trappers and settlers who ventured into lands still untamed. These newcomers quickly found themselves inheriting the stories of the indigenous peoples who had long inhabited the forests, mountains, and valleys. Among the Cree, there were warnings of Wetiko, a monstrous figure of great size and insatiable hunger, embodying the dangers of imbalance with nature. The Dana told of Nakani, a powerful hairy being known to stalk travelers who strayed too far from safety, its presence heralded by its immense size and strength. For settlers, these indigenous accounts merged seamlessly with their own European myths. Stories of woodwoses, the hairy wild men of the forests who haunted medieval legends. To those steeped in such tales, the discovery of massive footprints was not an isolated event. It was proof that the old world's myths had crossed the Atlantic and found a home in the new wilderness. These creatures, real or imagined, became symbols of the untamed land itself. Vast, unknowable, and full of secrets. Farther east along the St. Francis River in Arkansas, hunters in the early 19th century told of wild men who roamed the dense woods. These creatures, covered in hair and moving with alarming speed, were said to avoid direct confrontation, but left strange, oversized footprints in their wake. In 1869, the Cincinnati Enquirer reported a sighting of a wild man in Greene County, Ohio. Witnesses described a figure of immense size, shrouded in dark hair, running with an almost supernatural grace. These stories, carried by word of mouth and printed in newspapers, hinted at a shared understanding among frontier communities. The wilderness was not empty, and the boundaries of the known world were more porous than they seemed. By the mid-19th century, sightings of similar creatures began to appear with increasing frequency, often tied to frontier expansion. In 1840, Reverend Elkanah Walker, a missionary living among the Spokane people in what is now Washington state, recorded accounts of giants who lived in the mountains. The Spokane described these beings as enormous, covered in hair, and exuding a pungent odor that lingered long after they had passed. They were said to emit guttural screams at night, sounds so otherworldly that even the bravest hunters hesitated to venture out. Walker's writings framed these creatures not as myths, but as living beings, part of the natural order of the Spokane world. These stories, spanning decades and regions, reflect humanity's instinct to explain the unknown through familiar frameworks. For settlers, the wild men of America's frontier became both a warning and a wonder, beings that defied understanding yet felt inevitable in a world so vast and untamed. Each footprint, each distant scream, and each fleeting glimpse hinted at the possibility that not all mysteries could be confined to the edges of a map. In the shadowed forests and rugged mountains of early America, these tales grew roots, intertwining with indigenous wisdom and European lore to create something enduring, the legend of a creature that walked the boundaries of the known and the unknown, defying explanation and inviting wonder. Thompson's footprints were more than just tracks in the snow. They were the first marks of a legend, etched deeply into the human imagination. In 1958, Bluff Creek, California, a remote, forested expanse where the ancient redwoods stand like sentinels, became ground zero for the modern Bigfoot phenomenon. A crew constructing logging roads stumbled upon massive footprints, measuring 16 inches in length, pressed into the soft soil. The workers, puzzled and perhaps a bit unnerved, reported the find to their supervisor, Jerry Crew. Crew, a practical man with little patience for tall tales, cast the tracks in plaster. When his story reached the media, the public's imagination ignited, and the term Bigfoot was born. But for those who lived near Bluff Creek, this was no passing curiosity. It was the beginning of a mystery that would consume decades. Among those drawn to Bluff Creek was Bob Titmus, a taxidermist from California who had developed a keen interest in the growing lore of Bigfoot. Titmus was not merely a believer. He was a methodical researcher, skeptical of hoaxes but willing to follow the evidence wherever it led. In 1967, that evidence would lead him back to Bluff Creek, to the site of the now infamous Patterson-Gimlin film. The film, shot by Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, captured a figure striding through the creek bed, its gait slow and deliberate, its massive frame covered in dark, rippling hair. It turned its head briefly, offering a glimpse of a face that seemed both human and otherworldly. The footage became an instant sensation, polarizing the public and dividing experts. Some called it the most compelling evidence of Bigfoot's existence. Others dismissed it as an elaborate hoax. But for Bob Titmus, the film was not the end of the story. It was the beginning. When Titmus arrived at Bluff Creek days later, the air still buzzed with the excitement of the sighting. He carefully retraced Patterson and Gimlin's steps, methodically analyzing the site. What he found there sent shivers through even his seasoned mind. A line of footprints, large and deeply imprinted, crossing the sandy creek bed and vanishing into the dense undergrowth. Titmus cast several of these prints in plaster, preserving them as physical evidence to be scrutinized and studied. The footprints matched the size and shape seen in the film, their depth suggesting a creature of immense weight. To Titmus, these details hinted at something extraordinary, a creature whose existence, if proven, would upend everything humanity thought it knew about the wilderness. But Bluff Creek was more than a single moment frozen in film or a collection of plaster casts. It became a cultural beacon, drawing researchers, enthusiasts, and skeptics alike. The Pacific Northwest, its towering forests shrouded in mist, its remote trails weaving through uncharted terrain, became synonymous with the Bigfoot legend. Towns like Willow Creek, just a short drive from Bluff Creek, embraced their newfound notoriety. Festivals celebrating the creature sprang up, blending scientific inquiry with folklore and community pride. The legend of Bigfoot was no longer confined to a handful of sightings. It had become part of the identity of the region. Even now, the footprints cast by Bob Titmus serve as a reminder of Bluff Creek's role in transforming Bigfoot from a localized legend into a cultural phenomenon. They are not just impressions in plaster, but artifacts of a moment when the boundaries between belief and reality blurred, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire wonder. In the heart of the Pacific Northwest, where the forests breathe with ancient secrets, the story of Bigfoot lives on, its tracks leading ever deeper into the unknown. The Bigfoot legend stretches far beyond the forests of the Pacific Northwest, branching into regions as diverse as Appalachia's rugged peaks, the rolling hills of the Midwest, and the murky swamps of the South. Here, the creature takes on new names and identities, shaped by the land it inhabits and the cultures that recount its presence. These regional legends blend seamlessly with an ever-growing body of documented sightings, raising an enduring question: myth or real? In the mist-draped hollows of Appalachia, Bigfoot is known as the wood booger, a name whispered with equal parts humor and unease. For generations, stories have passed through mountain communities of a towering hair-covered figure that emerges from the dense undergrowth, leaving massive footprints in its wake. These legends are not mere folklore. They are punctuated by sightings. Families hiking the Blue Ridge Parkway report hearing unearthly screams reverberating through the valleys, followed by glimpses of something large and bipedal slipping silently into the forest. Many of these reports come from areas like Salt Fork State Park in Ohio, a region renowned for its Bigfoot activity. Witnesses, often families or groups of friends, describe similar experiences. Strange sounds, towering figures, and a shared, undeniable sense of being watched. Farther west, in the dense forests of the Midwest and Ozarks, the creature takes on a new persona: Momo, the Missouri Monster. First sighted in 1972 near Louisiana, Missouri, Momo was described as a hulking figure with dark, shaggy hair and glowing red eyes. Its most chilling feature, however, was the stench, a putrid odor that seemed to linger long after it disappeared into the shadows. The initial reports came from children playing in their backyard, but soon, entire families and even local law enforcement joined the hunt. By the end of the summer, dozens of witnesses claimed to have encountered the creature. Was it a fabrication born of local superstition, or a fleeting glimpse of something real? The footprints, physical evidence left behind, seemed to suggest the latter. In Kentucky, where 115 sightings have been reported, Anderson County alone accounts for 29. One notable account involves a hunter observing two Bigfoots crossing a field, providing detailed descriptions that align with other regional reports. Such encounters, often experienced by multiple witnesses, contribute to the rich body of local folklore and highlight the communal nature of these mysteries. To the south, the legend of Bigfoot takes on a more humid, swamp-soaked form. In the murky waterways and dense mangroves of Florida, it becomes the skunk ape, a creature as elusive as the mist that rises from the Everglades. The skunk ape has haunted local lore for decades, its name derived from the powerful odor that witnesses claim lingers long after its fleeting appearances. In 2000, the Myakka skunk ape photos emerged, allegedly taken near Sarasota. These grainy images depict a large, ape-like figure crouched in the shadows, its glowing eyes reflecting the camera's flash. These photos reignited the legend, drawing both enthusiasts and skeptics into the swamps to seek answers. Beyond the legends, the data tells its own story. According to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, BFRO, Washington state alone has documented 724 sightings since the mid-20th century, the highest in the nation. California follows with 463, and Florida with 344. These numbers reveal not only the breadth of the phenomenon, but also its consistency. Many reports involve multiple witnesses, such as the 1924 case at Mount St. Helens, where miners claimed they were attacked by ape men hurling rocks at their cabin. This encounter, often referred to as the Ape Canyon incident, remains a cornerstone of Bigfoot lore. The Midwest, too, contributes to this legacy. Ohio has reported 327 sightings, with Salt Fork State Park standing out as a hotspot. Groups of campers and hikers often recount similar experiences: howls that pierce the night, large footprints found near trails, and fleeting glimpses of something massive moving through the trees. These shared accounts, involving families and friends, lend a communal weight to the mystery. Even more intriguing are the correlations between sightings across regions. The physical characteristics, towering height, hair-covered bodies, and an overwhelming odor are described with striking consistency, whether in the Appalachians, the Ozarks, or the Everglades. These accounts challenge skeptics to explain how such similar descriptions arise in vastly different environments. Is it coincidence, cultural influence, or evidence of something real moving just beyond the edge of human understanding? Each region's legend adds another layer to the puzzle. In Appalachia, Bigfoot becomes a mountain sentinel, a creature tied to the mist-shrouded wilderness. In the Midwest, Momo embodies the river-strewn wilds of the Ozarks, rooted in the local character of the land. And in the South, the skunk ape reflects the untamed and haunting beauty of the swamps. These stories, steeped in local tradition and intertwined with modern sightings, continue to blur the boundary between folklore and reality. Bigfoot's enduring presence in these regions raises a question that has yet to be answered. Is it simply the myth of a restless imagination? Or is it the shadow of something yet to be discovered? Whether whispered in mountain hollows, shouted in the wake of a sighting, or etched in muddy footprints, the stories remain. They beckon us to look closer, to question, and to wonder. In the mountains of Appalachia, the swamps of Florida, and the forests of the Midwest, the legend of Bigfoot takes on many names, shaped by the unique character of each region. Yet the story does not end at the borders of the United States. Across oceans and continents, echoes of this creature appear, bearing different names but sharing familiar traits. The question persists: how could such legends, separated by geography and culture, speak the same language of the unknown? High in the Himalayan range, where the air thins and the peaks seem to touch the heavens, the Yeti has long stalked the imaginations of those who dare venture into its realm. Known as the abominable snowman in Western lore, the Yeti occupies a far more sacred space in the traditions of the region. To the Sherpa people, the Meto Kangmi, as it is sometimes called, is not a monster but a guardian of the mountains, revered and feared in equal measure. Its presence is marked by enormous footprints, often appearing after fresh snowfalls, etched into the purest white, like silent reminders of an unseen watcher. In 1951, Eric Shipton, a British mountaineer and explorer, brought the Yeti into global prominence. While scouting a potential route to Mount Everest summit, Shipton and his team discovered a trail of massive footprints stretching across the glacier. He photographed one of these tracks beside his ice axe for scale. The image, a print measuring 13 inches in length with distinct toes splayed wide, captivated the world. To some, it was irrefutable evidence of the Yeti's existence. To others, it was merely an artifact of shifting snow and ice. Yet the fascination persisted, inspiring expeditions, debates, and countless retellings. In Australia, beneath the shadowy canopies of the outback, the Yowie walks. Aboriginal folklore speaks of the Yowie as a giant, hairy being that roams the rugged terrain, its presence signaled by guttural howls and an uncanny ability to vanish without a trace. Descriptions of the Yowie vary. Some accounts paint it as a benevolent figure, a guardian of the land. Others describe it as fearsome and unpredictable. European settlers too began recording encounters in the late 18th century, their reports blending with indigenous legends. In Queensland's Springbrook National Park, hikers and campers still report sightings of massive bipedal creatures, their footprints found pressed into the red earth, as though challenging the boundaries of belief. Further north, across the frozen expanse of Siberia, the Almas prowls. Unlike the Yeti or Yowie, the Almas is often described as closer to human, an ancient relic species that has evaded extinction by retreating into the most desolate corners of the world. Russian explorers in the 15th and 16th centuries recorded encounters with these beings, describing them as hairy, strong, and fiercely intelligent. In the 19th century, tales of the Almas were revived when travelers reported seeing figures darting through the forests near the Caucasus Mountains. These sightings continue into modern times, supported by scattered footprints and peculiar vocalizations. The Almas legend blurs the line between cryptid and hominid, suggesting that humanity's distant relatives might still walk among us. What unites these global legends is not just their persistence, but their astonishing similarities. Each creature is described as towering, hair-covered, and elusive, capable of blending seamlessly into its environment. Each occupies landscapes that are vast and inhospitable to human dominance: mountains, jungles, deserts, and tundras. These legends transcend cultural and geographical boundaries, raising a profound question. How could such similar stories arise in such disparate parts of the world? Perhaps the answer lies in humanity itself. The Yeti, Yowie, and Almas are not just creatures of the wild. They are mirrors reflecting our deepest fears and desires. They remind us of the fragility of our place in the natural order, of the mysteries that remain unsolved even in the age of satellites and science. These legends challenge our certainty, pulling us back to a time when the world was larger, darker, and filled with the unknown. From the icy trails of the Himalayas to the sun-scorched outback of Australia and the shadowed forests of Siberia, these creatures remain etched in the collective imagination. They defy explanation, leaving footprints not just in the soil but in the human psyche, where the boundaries between myth and reality grow ever thinner. The footprints are always the first clue. Pressed into soft earth or frozen in snow, they appear in lines that vanish into the shadows of the forest, their size defying logic, their depth hinting at immense weight. For some, they are merely quirks of nature or clever hoaxes. For others, they are evidence, tantalizing, undeniable, and yet maddeningly incomplete. This paradox is the crucible of Bigfoot research, a field that exists on the edge of science, where curiosity collides with skepticism. Few embody this tension more fully than Dr. Jeff Meldrum. Meldrum, a professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State University, has built a career on studying bipedal locomotion. His expertise in the mechanics of human and primate movement might seem an unusual foundation for Bigfoot research, but it is precisely this grounding in science that makes his work so compelling. Meldrum's journey into the world of cryptozoology began with a single discovery: a footprint. It was 1996, and Meldrum had been invited to southeastern Washington to examine casts of tracks found along the Blue Mountains. These prints, measuring over 15 inches in length, displayed details that caught his attention: dermal ridges, subtle flexion creases, and a mid-tarsal break, a feature absent in human feet but consistent with primate anatomy. For Meldrum, these features were not the hallmarks of a hoax. They were clues to something extraordinary. Skeptics dismissed the casts, but Meldrum saw an opportunity to apply rigorous scientific analysis to a field often dismissed as pseudoscience. The deeper Meldrum delved, the more evidence he encountered. Plaster casts from Bluff Creek, the site of the Patterson-Gimlin film, displayed similar anatomical features, suggesting consistency across decades and regions. Meldrum meticulously compared these casts to human and primate footprints, publishing his findings in academic journals and presenting them at conferences. His work challenged the scientific community to reconsider Bigfoot not as a myth, but as a biological possibility, a creature that might exist on the margins of human discovery. Yet, the work came at a cost. Meldrum faced harsh criticism from colleagues who saw his research as a dalliance into pseudoscience. Some accused him of chasing fantasies, of undermining the credibility of his academic field. But Meldrum persisted, arguing that dismissing evidence without examination was antithetical to the scientific method. To him, the question was not whether Bigfoot existed, but whether the evidence deserved a closer look. Bigfoot research forces us to grapple with the boundaries of science itself. What does it mean to seek truth in a world that demands proof, yet thrives on mystery? Meldrum's work raises uncomfortable questions. How do we decide what is worthy of study and who gets to make that decision? His footprint casts are not just artifacts. They are a challenge to the scientific establishment, a call to embrace curiosity even in the face of uncertainty. Meldrum's lab, filled with casts from around the world, serves as both a repository of evidence and a testament to his perseverance. Each cast tells a story, of a fleeting moment in the wilderness of a creature that leaves its mark yet eludes capture. These footprints, with their distinct anatomical details, blur the line between possibility and belief. They demand to be seen, studied, and understood. In the shadowed corridors of scientific exploration lies a discipline that defies convention: cryptozoology, the study of animals whose existence has yet to be proven. It is a field suspended between skepticism and belief, a bridge spanning the solid ground of empirical evidence and the wild expanse of human imagination. Cryptozoology occupies a unique space, one where scientific curiosity and the primal need for mystery intertwine. Among its many subjects, Bigfoot reigns as both its most controversial figure and its greatest enigma. Cryptozoology is often dismissed as pseudoscience, its practitioners regarded as seekers of myths rather than truth. Yet history offers startling reminders that creatures once thought to belong to the realm of legend have later emerged into the realm of fact. Consider the gorilla, a creature now so familiar that it graces zoo exhibits and nature documentaries. In the early 19th century, however, tales of the gorilla were whispered with disbelief. Indigenous accounts of a massive human-like ape stalking the forests of Central Africa were dismissed by Western explorers as folklore, exaggerations, or outright fabrications. That skepticism persisted until 1847, when American missionary Thomas Savage obtained a skull from Gabon and published his findings, officially identifying the gorilla as a new species. Even then, sightings of silverback gorillas, a subspecies that loomed even larger in local lore, were met with derision until the late 19th century, when explorer Paul du Chaillu documented their existence after perilous expeditions. The gorilla, a creature of myth and shadow, had crossed the threshold into reality. The coelacanth offers another reminder of nature's propensity to surprise. Long thought extinct, this prehistoric fish was known only from fossils dating back 66 million years. It was a relic of the past, or so the scientific community believed, until 1938, when a living specimen was caught off the coast of South Africa. The discovery stunned the world, challenging the assumption that all corners of the natural world had been explored. These examples illustrate a crucial point: the unknown does not always remain hidden. Cryptozoology thrives in this liminal space, asking questions that challenge the limits of established science. For Bigfoot researchers, the discipline represents not just a quest for validation, but a continuation of this historical narrative, a reminder that humanity's knowledge of the natural world is far from complete. Bigfoot itself has long been a subject of cryptozoological inquiry. Could such a being evade discovery in the dense forests of North America, as the gorilla once did in Africa? The question lingers, tantalizing and unresolved. But cryptozoology is not solely about uncovering new species, it is also about preserving a sense of wonder. In a world mapped and measured to the millimeter, it reminds us of the possibility that there are still places and creatures beyond the reach of our understanding. It asks us to look into the shadows of the forest and consider what might lie within, to listen to the stories that echo across cultures and continents, and wonder if they carry a kernel of truth. But what happens when those shadows leave behind traces, something real enough to touch yet still cloaked in uncertainty? Footprints press deep into the forest floor, haunting vocalizations that shatter the quiet of the night, and strange hair samples that defy identification. All these fragments beckon us closer, tempting us with the possibility of proof. They are pieces of a puzzle that refuses to be solved, each discovery raising more questions than answers. The Sierra Sounds are a prime example of this tantalizing evidence. Captured in the early 1970s by Ron Moorhead and Al Berry, these recordings emerged from the remote wilderness of the Sierra Nevada mountains. What they documented defied conventional explanation. Guttural growls, rhythmic knocking, and most astonishingly, vocalizations that seemed almost linguistic, like a language not yet understood. Analyzed by bioacoustic experts, the recordings revealed a vocal range beyond the capability of humans or known animals. Linguist Scott Nelson described the sounds as exhibiting the hallmarks of language, patterns of communication embedded in the eerie calls. Yet skeptics question their authenticity, arguing that such recordings, while fascinating, fall short of definitive proof. They are whispers in the dark, hints of something that remains just out of reach. The footprints left behind tell a similar story. From the massive tracks documented by David Thompson in 1811 to the intricate plaster casts collected at Bluff Creek by Bob Titmus, these impressions offer a tangible connection to the mystery. Some, like those studied by Dr. Jeff Meldrum, bear anatomical details that suggest something extraordinary: dermal ridges, mid-tarsal breaks, and the pressure of immense weight. These tracks provide clues that feel solid and scientific, yet they lead only to more uncertainty. What left them? Why do they always vanish, leaving no other trace of the creature that made them? Hair samples, too, have added to the body of evidence, analyzed in labs around the world with results that tantalize but rarely satisfy. In 2014, a study led by geneticist Dr. Brian Sykes analyzed 36 hair samples attributed to Bigfoot. Most were identified as belonging to known animals, bears, deer, and other familiar species. But 2 samples stood apart, matching the DNA of an extinct polar bear species. These findings opened new questions. If such a creature could be misidentified or even survive unnoticed, could Bigfoot do the same? This search for physical evidence reflects humanity's deeper yearning for answers. In a world where so much has been catalogued and explained, Bigfoot remains a reminder that the unknown still lingers, defying our need for certainty. Each footprint and each recording invites us to believe, yet they remained just shy of proof, leaving us suspended between wonder and skepticism. The search for Bigfoot, in its quest for tangible evidence, mirrors our desire to anchor the intangible, to hold mystery in our hands and name it. And yet, perhaps it is the very absence of definitive proof that keeps the legend alive. In those gaps, those unanswered questions, lies the space where belief thrives. Each discovery, no matter how incomplete, fuels the hope that the world is not as small or as known as we often imagine. In the footprints, the sounds, and the shadows of the forest, the mystery of Bigfoot endures, a challenge to our understanding and a testament to the enduring allure of the unknown. Belief, fragile and resilient, walks a precarious line. For every footprint that stirs hope, there is another stamped with deceit, a hoax that clouds the waters and forces the faithful to confront uncomfortable questions. Why would someone fake evidence of a creature so steeped in mystery? And what does it mean when these falsehoods are uncovered, casting doubt not just on the hoax, but on the very foundation of the legend itself? Ray Wallace's story stands as a defining chapter in the tangled web of Bigfoot's history. In 1958, Wallace, a construction worker in Bluff Creek, California, claimed to have discovered massive footprints near a road construction site. The press quickly seized on the story, coining the term Bigfoot and transforming the find into a national sensation. Plaster casts of the tracks were displayed and analyzed, sparking a wave of sightings, stories, and media attention that thrust Bigfoot into the collective consciousness. For decades, these footprints were considered among the most compelling evidence of Bigfoot's existence. Yet in 2002, following Wallace's death, his family revealed that the prints had been fabricated. Using wooden molds, Wallace had created the tracks as a practical joke, unwittingly launching one of the most enduring legends of the 20th century. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Bigfoot community, raising questions about how much of the evidence could be trusted and whether the creature itself was merely a product of human imagination and trickery. Wallace's hoax was far from an isolated incident. From doctored photographs to fabricated audio recordings, the search for Bigfoot has been littered with instances of deliberate deception. In 2008, Rick Dyer and Matthew Whitten claimed to have found a Bigfoot body in Georgia, preserved in a freezer. They staged a dramatic press conference, even inviting scientific examination. When the ice melted, however, the body was revealed to be a costume stuffed with animal parts, a hoax that unraveled almost as quickly as it had captured attention. These deceptions are not merely pranks, They have a profound impact on the credibility of Bigfoot research. Hoaxes taint the waters, giving skeptics ammunition to dismiss genuine evidence and eroding the trust between researchers and the public. They create an atmosphere of doubt, where every footprint, every photograph, and every sighting is scrutinized with suspicion. For those who believe, they are betrayals, reminders of how easily wonder can be weaponized for fame or fortune. Yet hoaxes also reveal something deeper about humanity's relationship with mystery. They show how far people are willing to go to be part of a story larger than themselves. In some cases, the motivation is clear: money, attention, or the thrill of deception. In others, it may be a longing to contribute to the legend, to add one's mark to the myth. Hoaxes thrive in the same space that sustains belief, the uncharted territory of the unknown, where fact and fiction blur and the boundaries of truth grow hazy. Even in the shadow of deception, the legend of Bigfoot persists. For every hoax that collapses under scrutiny, there are witnesses who stand by their stories, researchers who continue their work, and discoveries that defy easy explanation. Wallace's wooden footprints may have been carved by human hands, but they also carved a place in the imagination of millions, igniting a fascination that refuses to fade. Perhaps this is the paradox of Bigfoot. The hoaxes do not diminish the legend. They amplify it, reminding us that the allure of the unknown is as much about belief as it is about proof. In the dense forests and shadowed wilderness, whispers of something ancient persist. Could Bigfoot be more than a modern mystery? The theory that Bigfoot is a relict hominid, a survivor of an ancient lineage, holds a unique power to captivate. It suggests a connection between the world we inhabit today and the untamed past, where giants roamed the earth alongside our ancestors. Among the strongest candidates for this lineage is Gigantopithecus blacki, a massive ape that thrived during the Pleistocene epoch. While its fossil record is limited to jawbones and teeth, these remnants paint a picture of a creature that could stand up to 10 feet tall and weigh over 1,000 pounds. Gigantopithecus lived in the dense forests of what is now Southeast Asia, a habitat that mirrors the remote and heavily forested regions where Bigfoot is often reported. The possibility that a relative or descendant of Gigantopithecus adapted and migrated over millennia is a question researchers continue to explore. A significant argument for Bigfoot as a relict hominid comes from the consistent patterns reported in sightings. Across decades and continents, witnesses describe creatures that share distinctive features: immense size, hair-covered bodies, and bipedal movement. These accounts align with what we know about prehistoric hominids, sparking speculation that Bigfoot could be a descendant of a yet undiscovered species that survived in isolation. While modern science has mapped much of the natural world, there remain vast areas, remote forests, mountains, and wetlands that are still largely unexplored. One intriguing aspect of this theory is the possibility of convergent evolution, where species develop similar traits to adapt to comparable environments. Even if Bigfoot is not directly descended from Gigantopithecus or other ancient hominids, its described characteristics may represent a parallel adaptation, a species shaped by its habitat to thrive in ways eerily similar to our distant relatives. What draws humans to the idea of surviving prehistoric creatures? Perhaps it is the allure of the unknown, the hope that some part of the wild has resisted the relentless advance of modernity. There are precedents that fuel this belief. The Komodo dragon and the okapi, both dismissed as myths by early Western explorers, proved to be very real, existing in habitats that shielded them from human discovery for centuries. The appeal of Bigfoot as a relict hominid also taps into something deeper, a yearning to reconnect with a world before humanity claimed dominion over nature. If such a creature exists, it would represent resilience and survival, a living testament to the idea that not everything has been conquered, not every secret unveiled. While the fossil record provides limited clues, the gaps it leaves inspire as much curiosity as the evidence it contains. In those gaps lies the possibility that nature, vast and unpredictable, still has surprises to offer. Bigfoot, as a relict hominid, occupies this space between the known and the unknowable, a link to a past that may still walk among us. In the vast, uncharted spaces where the natural world blurs into the inexplicable, a darker question emerges. What if Bigfoot is not of this earth? Beyond theories of relict hominids and evolutionary relics lies a realm where science fiction and cryptid lore collide. A place where creatures of the wilderness are intertwined with lights in the sky and machines that defy gravity. It is here that researchers like Stan Gordon have spent decades delving into the unsettling connections between Bigfoot sightings and UFO activity. Gordon, a veteran investigator based in Pennsylvania, began documenting these cases in the 1970s, when a wave of reports flooded local law enforcement and media outlets. Witnesses described not just encounters with towering, hairy creatures, but also strange lights darting through the night sky. In some cases, the two phenomena occurred almost simultaneously. Bigfoot-like beings spotted near glowing, saucer-shaped crafts or in fields scorched with unexplained burn marks. These accounts, detailed in Gordon's research, force us to reconsider the boundaries of the possible. One of the most compelling cases occurred in 1973, during a period of heightened UFO activity in Fayette County, Pennsylvania. A local farmer reported seeing a pair of luminous red eyes staring at him from the edge of his property. As he approached, flashlight in hand, he was confronted by a creature standing over 8 feet tall, covered in dark fur. Moments later, a glowing object appeared in the sky above, casting an eerie light over the scene. The farmer fled in terror, but his story was corroborated by neighbors who also reported strange aerial phenomena that night. Gordon has documented dozens of such incidents, each weaving a thread between cryptid encounters and unexplained lights in the sky. In some cases, witnesses describe Bigfoot-like creatures disappearing abruptly, as if vanishing into thin air. Others report tracks that stop suddenly in the middle of open fields, as though the creature simply lifted off the ground. These anomalies challenge the conventional view of Bigfoot as a purely terrestrial being, instead suggesting a connection to the ultraterrestrial, a term used to describe entities that exist outside our standard understanding of physical reality. The extraterrestrial angle further complicates the narrative. Could Bigfoot be a visitor, not from the distant past, but from the distant stars? This theory taps into a deeply ingrained fascination with the unknown, blending the primal fear of the wilderness with the boundless possibilities of the cosmos. For some, the idea of Bigfoot as an alien life form provides a framework to explain its ability to evade capture, its inexplicable appearances and disappearances, and its apparent connection to areas of high strangeness. Skeptics argue that the combination of Bigfoot and UFO sightings is merely coincidental, a product of human imagination seeking patterns in chaos. Yet the frequency and consistency of these reports suggest otherwise. In Gordon's records, witnesses from vastly different backgrounds and regions describe strikingly similar experiences. Encounters that defy logic, yet resonate with a strange coherence. It is this coherence that makes these accounts impossible to dismiss entirely. Theories linking Bigfoot to ultraterrestrial or extraterrestrial origins do more than stretch the boundaries of belief. They reflect humanity's enduring fascination with the unknown. They ask us to imagine a world where the wilderness is not just a place of physical danger, but a gateway to something far more profound. Whether Bigfoot is a creature of the earth, the stars, or something in between, its role in these narratives challenges us to confront the limits of our understanding and to consider that the universe may hold secrets far stranger than we dare to dream. The wilderness has always held a sense of mystery, a place where the boundaries of reality seem to fray. Yet, in the accounts of those who claim to encounter Bigfoot, the mystery often deepens into something far stranger. Beyond the physical presence of a towering, hair-covered figure, there are reports of phenomena that defy explanation. Disappearing footprints, glowing eyes that seem to pierce the darkness, and an uncanny sense of being watched by something not entirely of this world. These moments of high strangeness blur the line between cryptid encounters and the paranormal, raising unsettling questions about the true nature of the unknown. Among the most perplexing details are the disappearing tracks, In countless reports, witnesses describe finding massive footprints in mud, snow, or soft earth, only to have them abruptly vanish as though the creature had simply lifted into the air. One such case occurred in 1967 near the Dalles in Oregon. A group of hikers followed a trail of prints leading into a wide clearing, where the tracks ended without explanation. There were no signs of doubling back, no disturbances in the surrounding foliage, just an eerie silence, and the unsettling realization that something enormous had passed through, and then, impossibly, disappeared. Then there are the eyes, glowing red, yellow, or green, described in detail by witnesses across decades and regions. Unlike the reflective eye shine of known animals, these orbs seem to emit their own light, cutting through the darkness with a presence that feels almost sentient. In one chilling account from 1972 in Louisiana, a family claimed they saw a pair of glowing red eyes watching them from the edge of their yard. When they approached, the eyes rose to a height of nearly 8 feet before retreating silently into the trees. This phenomenon, reported so frequently, suggests something more than mere biology, perhaps a connection to forces beyond our understanding. In other encounters, witnesses describe an almost dreamlike quality to the events, as though reality itself had shifted. Time slows, sounds become muffled, and the air feels heavy, charged with an invisible energy. In one striking case documented by investigator Stan Gordon, a man in rural Pennsylvania reported seeing a glowing, orb-like light hovering near his property. Moments later, he spotted a large, shadowy figure moving along the tree line. When he tried to follow, the light and the figure vanished simultaneously, leaving him standing in an empty field, disoriented and questioning what he had seen. These accounts, while seemingly disparate, share a common thread: the human mind's tendency to weave connections between the unexplained. Where one mystery begins, another seems to intersect, creating a web of phenomena that defy categorization. Is this overlap a coincidence, or does it hint at something deeper, a shared source for these inexplicable events? High strangeness forces us to confront this question, challenging the limits of both our science and our imagination. Skeptics argue that these reports are the result of heightened emotions, natural misinterpretations, or the tricks of an overstimulated brain. The human mind, they say, is wired to find patterns, even where none exist, turning rustling leaves into whispers and distant lights into watchful eyes. Yet for those who have experienced these moments, the sense of the extraordinary is undeniable. They speak of the encounters with a conviction that suggests not just fear but awe, a brush with something they cannot name. High strangeness does more than complicate the legend of Bigfoot. It expands it. In these fleeting, otherworldly moments, the wilderness transforms into a liminal space where reality bends and the unknown feels palpably close. The legend of Bigfoot is not a static story confined to forests and fleeting sightings. It is a living, breathing phenomenon, shaped by the cultural forces that surround it. With each decade, Bigfoot has adapted, morphing to reflect the fears, hopes, and obsessions of the era. Its power lies not only in the wilderness but in the stories we tell and the ways those stories evolve. This adaptability, as Lauren Coleman's research reveals, is what has elevated Bigfoot from a regional curiosity to a global icon of modern mythology. Coleman, a leading cryptozoologist and cultural theorist, has spent decades tracing the threads of Bigfoot's influence through media, folklore, and popular culture. He describes the creature as a cultural shapeshifter, a figure that thrives in the intersections of fact and fiction, fear and fascination. Its ability to adapt to shifting cultural narratives is what keeps it alive, not just in the woods, but in the collective imagination. The media has played a pivotal role in this transformation. In 1958, when Ray Wallace's fabricated footprints first made headlines, Bigfoot stepped into the national spotlight. The term itself, Bigfoot, was coined by journalists, giving the creature a name that was at once approachable and evocative. From there, the legend spread, carried by newspapers, radio programs, and eventually television. The timing was critical. The mid-20th century was an era of exploration and discovery. a time when humanity was reaching for the stars while still yearning for the mysteries of its own planet. The release of the Patterson-Gimlin film in 1967 marked a watershed moment. The grainy footage depicting a towering figure striding through Bluff Creek, California, became a cultural touchstone, endlessly debated and dissected. The film coincided with a growing fascination with cryptids, UFOs, and otherworldly phenomena, feeding into a broader narrative of the unknown. Bigfoot became a symbol of resistance to a world increasingly dominated by technology and scientific rationalism, a reminder that not everything could be explained or contained. In the decades that followed, Bigfoot evolved alongside cultural trends. The 1970s saw the rise of environmental consciousness, and Bigfoot was recast as a guardian of the wilderness, a symbol of nature's untamed power. Films like The Legend of Boggy Creek turned the creature into a figure of horror and mystery, while documentaries presented it as a scientific puzzle waiting to be solved. By the 1980s and 1990s, Bigfoot had become a pop culture icon, featured in commercials, children's cartoons, and even family-friendly films like Harry and the Hendersons. The legend was no longer confined to campfire stories. It had become a brand. Coleman's research highlights how this adaptability mirrors broader societal shifts. In times of uncertainty, Bigfoot reflects our fears, a lurking presence in the shadows, a reminder of the unknown dangers that lie beyond the edge of civilization. In times of wonder, it becomes a symbol of possibility, a creature that defies extinction, embodying humanity's hope that the world still holds surprises. This duality, Coleman argues, is the secret to Bigfoot's enduring appeal. It is both a mirror and a mystery, reflecting the cultural zeitgeist, while remaining tantalizingly out of reach. The legend's persistence also reveals a deeper truth about modern mythology. In an age of instant communication and relentless skepticism, Bigfoot thrives because it defies easy answers. It is a story that invites participation, a mystery that can be shaped and reshaped by those who engage with it. From amateur researchers documenting footprints to Hollywood directors crafting blockbusters, everyone who encounters the legend becomes part of its evolution. In the wilderness of the human mind, belief takes root, nourished by the unknown and cultivated by the stories we choose to tell ourselves. Bigfoot's enduring presence in the cultural imagination is not merely the result of sightings or folklore. It is a reflection of something deeper, a psychological framework that compels us to believe even in the absence of definitive proof. To understand why Bigfoot thrives, we must look inward, into the mechanisms of belief itself. Psychologists have long studied the human tendency to seek patterns, to find meaning in chaos, and to connect dots even when the picture is incomplete. One of the most influential concepts in this field is confirmation bias, the tendency to favor information that aligns with pre-existing beliefs while dismissing evidence to the contrary. For those who believe in Bigfoot, a footprint in the mud or a distant howl in the forest becomes more than a clue, it becomes proof. The gaps in evidence are filled not with skepticism but with possibility, creating a self-reinforcing loop that strengthens the belief over time. This phenomenon is not limited to cryptid enthusiasts. It is a universal trait of the human mind, rooted in our evolutionary need to make quick decisions based on incomplete information. In the ancient past, identifying a shadow in the grass as a potential predator, whether it was or not, could mean the difference between survival and death. Today, this same instinct drives us to see patterns in the wilderness, to hear voices in the wind, and to attribute meaning to what might otherwise be dismissed. Studies have also explored the role of cognitive dissonance, the psychological discomfort that arises when evidence conflicts with deeply held beliefs. For Bigfoot believers, cognitive dissonance often manifests when hoaxes are revealed, or when skeptics challenge their views. Rather than abandoning the belief, many double down, reinterpreting new information to fit their existing worldview. This ability to adapt beliefs in the face of contradiction is part of what makes Bigfoot so enduring. It is not just a creature to be proven, but an idea to be defended. Another factor is the human need for agency detection, the instinct to perceive intentionality behind unexplained phenomena. In the case of Bigfoot, This means interpreting broken branches, distant calls, or even fleeting movements in the trees as signs of an intelligent being. This inclination, while often helpful in understanding our environment, can also lead us to see faces in the shadows and meaning in the inexplicable. Yet, belief in Bigfoot is not purely a matter of cognitive quirks. It is also deeply emotional. For many, Bigfoot represents a connection to the untamed, a symbol of a world that still holds secrets. In a society increasingly dominated by technology and certainty, the legend offers a sense of wonder, a reminder that the unknown still exists, just beyond the edges of the map. Belief in Bigfoot is, in many ways, a form of resistance against the shrinking of mystery, the dominance of science, and the disconnection from nature. Psychological studies also reveal that belief is often tied to identity. For some, embracing the possibility of Bigfoot is not just about the creature itself, but about belonging to a community of like-minded individuals. Bigfoot enthusiasts often describe their search not as a solitary quest, but as a shared journey, one that creates bonds and fosters a sense of purpose. In this way, the belief becomes more than just an idea. It becomes a part of who they are. The psychology of belief is not about weakness or gullibility. It is about the human need for connection, meaning, and wonder. Bigfoot thrives because it taps into these needs, offering a story that bridges the natural and the supernatural, the known and the unknown. It invites us to suspend disbelief, to imagine a world where giants still roam, and to see the wilderness not just as a landscape, but as a mirror to our own minds. In the end, the legend of Bigfoot is not just about footprints or sightings. It is about belief itself. It is a reflection of our deepest desires, our fears, and our hope that the world is still larger and stranger than we dare to dream. In the quiet moments of the forest where the trees stand like sentinels and the air hums with possibility, belief takes hold, weaving a story that endures because it speaks to something primal, something universal, and something undeniably human. Belief drives us into the unknown, but it is curiosity that arms us with tools and sends us deeper. In the quiet hours before dawn, a group of researchers gathers in the heart of the Pacific Northwest, surrounded by a forest that seems alive with secrets. Their goal is as ancient as the myths themselves: to uncover proof, to bridge the gap between shadow and certainty. This is a modern expedition, led by the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, BFRO, and equipped with tools that transform the darkness into data. The forest feels timeless, but the technology carried by these researchers is anything but. Thermal imaging cameras scan the treetops, painting the cold night in ghostly hues of blue and orange. Sensitive audio equipment captures the faintest sounds, from distant animal calls to the rustling of unseen footsteps. Drones, outfitted with infrared sensors, sweep the skies, tracing paths inaccessible to human trackers. These tools extend human perception, pushing the boundaries of what can be uncovered in the vast, silent wilderness. One investigator raises a parabolic microphone toward the dark expanse of trees. The device amplifies the forest's symphony, the whisper of wind through leaves, the rhythmic croak of distant frogs. And then, cutting through the ambient noise, a sound. It is deep, guttural, resonant, like the call of no known animal. The team freezes, listening as the sound rises and falls in rhythmic patterns, a possible echo of intelligence in the void. Moments like these remind them why they are here, to capture evidence that challenges the known and hints at the extraordinary. As the group moves through the forest, they come across a line of tracks pressed into the soft soil. The footprints are massive, each measuring over 15 inches in length, with a stride far too large for a human. One investigator kneels, measuring and photographing the prints. The edges are crisp, the impressions deep, suggesting something heavy had passed through recently. The tracks vanish into the dense underbrush, leaving only the tantalizing possibility of a presence just out of reach. These expeditions are not merely scientific ventures, they are deeply symbolic. They represent humanity's refusal to let go of mystery, a collective hope that the world still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. The tools may be modern, but the impulse is ancient, a desire to connect with something larger, something wilder, something that reminds us of what it means to wonder. The BFRO, founded in 1995, has become the largest organization dedicated to the investigation of Bigfoot sightings. Their work combines field research with a rigorous examination of evidence, bridging the gap between scientific inquiry and folklore. They catalog reports, analyze patterns, and organize expeditions that draw both seasoned researchers and curious newcomers. For the participants, these ventures are more than just searches for Bigfoot. They are journeys into the unknown, tests of endurance, patience, and faith. Modern tools have revolutionized the way these searches unfold, yet the essence of the quest remains unchanged. It is not just about finding a creature. It is about reaffirming that the wild still holds mysteries, that there are still frontiers to explore. The forest, with its endless layers of shadow and light, becomes a stage for this ancient drama. Humanity's struggle to balance skepticism with belief, knowledge with wonder. As dawn breaks, the expedition comes to an end. The researchers pack their gear, their faces reflecting a mixture of exhaustion and hope. No definitive proof has been found, but the journey itself has left its mark. They return to the world beyond the forest, carrying stories, recordings, and casts of footprints. Evidence that may not answer the questions, but ensures the search will continue. As the sun rises over the wilderness, illuminating the places where mystery lingers, another frontier beckons. One not defined by shadows and trees, but by the microscopic traces left behind by life itself. Modern science has begun to venture into realms once thought unreachable, using tools that transform the intangible into data. Among these innovations, environmental DNA or eDNA stands at the forefront, a revolutionary method that allows researchers to uncover the hidden stories of the natural world. eDNA analysis is deceptively simple in concept but profound in its implications. Every living organism leaves a biological signature in its environment. Cells shed through skin, hair, or waste, pollen drifting in the air, spores settling in soil. These fragments of genetic material persist long after the creature has moved on, like invisible footprints marking its passage. By collecting samples of soil, water, or air, scientists can isolate and sequence this DNA, piecing together a map of the life that inhabits even the most remote landscapes. For Bigfoot researchers, the potential of eDNA is both exhilarating and daunting. It offers the possibility of identifying unknown species without direct observation, of capturing evidence from the spaces between sightings, the places where myths breathe. Imagine a water sample taken from a stream deep in the Pacific Northwest, its molecules carrying the genetic whispers of everything that has touched it. A single fragment of DNA, isolated and sequenced, could provide the proof that has eluded generations of trackers and explorers. In 2019, researchers used eDNA to document the biodiversity of Loch Ness in Scotland. While the project's primary goal was to catalogue the species within the lake, it also sought to address the legend of the Loch Ness monster. The results, while yielding no evidence of a prehistoric creature, revealed an unexpected abundance of eel DNA, sparking speculation that the legend might be rooted in encounters with unusually large specimens. This study demonstrated the power of eDNA to illuminate mysteries, even when the answers were not what many hoped to find. In the context of Bigfoot, eDNA is beginning to be deployed in similar ways. Soil samples collected near alleged sightings are analyzed for traces of unknown primate DNA, their findings often inconclusive but tantalizing. These efforts represent a shift in the approach to cryptozoology, moving beyond the reliance on eyewitness accounts and physical artifacts to embrace the precision of modern biology. The forest, once an impenetrable wall of green, becomes a living archive, its secrets encoded in the very ground beneath our feet. Yet, like all tools, eDNA is limited by the questions it can answer. The absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. A single sample may fail to capture the DNA of a fleeting presence. The process itself is fraught with challenges: contamination, interpretation, and the sheer complexity of passing genetic material in environments teeming with life. But these limitations are not failures. They are part of the journey, a reminder that science, like belief, is a process of discovery, shaped by persistence and patience. The advent of tools like eDNA represents more than just a technological leap. It symbolizes humanity's enduring hope to uncover the unknown. It is a testament to our refusal to let mysteries remain unsolved, our insistence on pushing beyond the boundaries of the visible and the measurable. For those who search for Bigfoot, these tools are not just instruments of proof. They are keys to a deeper understanding of the world and our place within it. In the soft earth of the forest floor, in the flowing waters of remote streams, in the air that carries the whispers of the wild, the stories of life are waiting to be uncovered. eDNA allows us to read those stories, to glimpse the traces of the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. Whether or not it reveals the creature we seek, it ensures that the search will continue, driven by the hope that somewhere in the invisible strands of the wilderness, the truth still waits to be found. The search for Bigfoot is not confined to laboratories or high-tech expeditions. It thrives in the hands of ordinary people with extraordinary passion. These citizen scientists, armed with curiosity and a belief in the unknown, form the backbone of Bigfoot research. They are hikers and hunters, teachers and mechanics, parents and retirees, all drawn to the wilderness by a shared purpose, to find what lies beyond the reach of conventional science. Their work, often dismissed by skeptics, is driven by the same relentless hope that fuels every great discovery. Cliff Barackman, a prominent figure in the world of Bigfoot research, embodies the spirit of this grassroots movement. An educator by trade and a Bigfoot enthusiast by calling, Barackman has dedicated decades to studying the phenomenon. His approach is both methodical and passionate, blending a deep respect for the wilderness with a meticulous eye for detail. Through his work on television's Finding Bigfoot and his independent investigations, Barackman has inspired a generation of amateur researchers to step into the unknown. Citizen scientists like Barackman rely on tools as diverse as their backgrounds. Trail cameras, audio recorders, and plaster for casting footprints are staples of their field kits, but so are notebooks filled with eyewitness accounts and hand-drawn maps of potential hotspots. They scour remote areas, following leads gleaned from reports that often defy conventional explanation. They listen for howls in the night, scan for tracks in the mud, and comb through thick underbrush for signs of passage, all while documenting their findings with the rigor of professionals. What sets these researchers apart is not just their determination, but their sense of community. The Bigfoot phenomenon has created a network of like-minded individuals who share data, compare findings, and support one another in the face of skepticism. Annual events like the International Bigfoot Conference bring together enthusiasts from across the globe, transforming solitary quests into collective endeavors. At these gatherings, stories are exchanged, evidence is scrutinized, and theories are debated, forging bonds that transcend geography and background. The grassroots nature of Bigfoot research also reflects a profound democratic spirit. Unlike traditional scientific fields, which often require advanced degrees and institutional backing, the search for Bigfoot is open to anyone with the will to explore. It is a space where passion and perseverance matter more than credentials, where a teacher from Oregon can contribute as much as a professor from Idaho. This inclusivity is part of what makes the phenomenon so enduring. It is not just about the creature, it is about the people who believe in it. For many citizen scientists, the search is about more than finding Bigfoot. It is about reclaiming a sense of wonder in a world that often feels over-explained. It is about stepping away from screens and schedules to reconnect with nature, to walk the trails less traveled, and to listen for the whispers of something extraordinary. In this way, the legend of Bigfoot becomes a call to adventure, a reminder that mystery is not something to be solved, but something to be embraced. The impact of citizen scientists cannot be overstated. Their tireless efforts have expanded the body of evidence, from new footprint casts to audio recordings of unidentifiable howls. Their reports have mapped patterns of sightings, creating a detailed picture of where and when Bigfoot might appear. and their stories have inspired countless others to join the search, ensuring that the legend continues to grow. In the quiet moments of the forest, where the only sound is the rustle of leaves and the distant call of a bird, the work of these citizen scientists takes on a deeper meaning. It is a testament to humanity's enduring hope and a reminder that the search for Bigfoot is not just about a creature in the woods. It is about the people who dare to believe that the unknown is still worth pursuing. Bigfoot is more than a myth. It is a business, one that generates millions of dollars annually and fuels entire economies built on belief. From small-town festivals to global merchandise sales, the legend has evolved into a thriving industry. What began as a creature lurking in the shadows has become a cultural icon, its footprint visible not just in the forests but in commerce. Each year, thousands of enthusiasts flock to events like the Sasquatch Festival in Washington State or the Ohio Bigfoot Conference. These gatherings transform quiet towns into bustling hubs of activity, with attendees pouring in from across the country. Vendors line the streets, selling everything from Bigfoot-shaped cookies to handcrafted wood carvings. Lectures and panels feature researchers and witnesses, sharing their evidence and stories with captivated audiences. Tourism boards eagerly promote these festivals, knowing they bring in significant revenue, not just for the event itself, but for local businesses, from hotels and restaurants to gas stations and gift shops. The economic impact is staggering. In Willow Creek, California, dubbed the Bigfoot capital of the world, Bigfoot tourism keeps the town alive. The Bigfoot Museum draws visitors year-round, offering an intimate look at the history of sightings and the creature's cultural evolution. Nearby, restaurants serve Sasquatch burgers, while stores sell everything from t-shirts to trail maps leading to the region's most notorious hotspots. These activities generate millions of dollars annually, providing a lifeline for rural communities and creating jobs in areas often overlooked by traditional industries. Beyond festivals and tourism, Bigfoot's commercial reach extends to media and merchandise. Films, documentaries, and television series regularly feature the creature, feeding public fascination while reaping profits. The 1987 film Harry and the Hendersons grossed over $50 million, introducing a family-friendly version of Bigfoot to a global audience. More recently, shows like Finding Bigfoot have drawn millions of viewers, turning researchers into household names and keeping the legend alive for a new generation. Merchandise sales are another cornerstone of the Bigfoot economy. In 2022 alone, Bigfoot-branded products, ranging from novelty socks to high-end sculptures, generated an estimated $75 million in revenue. Online marketplaces and local gift shops alike thrive on the creature's enduring appeal, offering consumers a chance to take home a piece of the mystery. These items, whether humorous or serious, become more than souvenirs. They are symbols of belief, ways for individuals to connect with the legend and with one another. But the commercialization of Bigfoot is about more than just profits. It reflects a deeper cultural need. By turning the legend into a product, people can share in the mystery, owning a small part of something that feels larger than life. A t-shirt or a coffee mug may seem mundane, but it carries the weight of a story, a connection to an idea that transcends the everyday. These objects are talismans, reminding us that the world is still filled with wonder. The industry also raises important questions about the balance between mystery and monetization. Does packaging Bigfoot for mass consumption dilute its allure, turning a creature of legend into a caricature? Or does it preserve the legend, ensuring its survival in an increasingly skeptical world? For many, the answer lies in how belief and commerce coexist, each feeding the other. The more the legend grows, the more it inspires people to seek it out, and the more the industry thrives. Beneath the commerce and spectacle lies a deeper truth. Bigfoot is not merely a product to be sold or a story to be told. It is a reflection of something primal, something buried in the collective human psyche. It thrives not just because of what it might be, but because of what it represents. A symbol of the unknown in a world that seems to be losing it. In an age where the edges of maps are no longer marked with monsters and the wild places of the earth grow smaller each day, Bigfoot stands as a reminder of what we fear to lose. It represents a vanishing wilderness, a connection to a natural world that feels increasingly distant. For centuries, humanity has sought to dominate and demystify the earth, yet Bigfoot resists this conquest, eluding cameras, traps, and satellites alike. Its very existence, real or imagined, is a rebellion against the idea that all mysteries have been solved. At the same time, Bigfoot embodies humanity's longing to believe in something larger than ourselves. The creature's presence in our stories is not just about fear of the unknown, it's about hope. Hope that there are still secrets worth uncovering, still giants hidden in the shadows waiting for the moment when the light reveals them. In Bigfoot, we see the possibility that the world is more wondrous than we dare to dream, that the boundaries of reality are not as fixed as they seem. Psychologists and sociologists have often pointed to Bigfoot as a cultural mirror, reflecting the concerns of the times. In the environmental movements of the 1970s, the creature became a symbol of the natural world, a guardian of the forests standing against human encroachment. In more recent years, Bigfoot's role has shifted, reflecting a yearning for connection in an era of disconnection, whether that connection is to nature, to each other, or to something greater than ourselves. The legend also speaks to a universal truth about storytelling. Myths like Bigfoot endure because they offer a way to explore the edges of human experience, to push past the boundaries of the known and into the realm of possibility. These stories are not just about a creature in the woods. They are about us, about our fears, our desires, and our endless quest for meaning. Even the commercialization of Bigfoot, for all its cynicism, hints at this deeper need. The t-shirts, the festivals, the films, they are not just souvenirs, they are tokens of belief. They allow people to take a piece of the mystery home, to hold in their hands a reminder that some questions remain unanswered. In this way, Bigfoot becomes more than a legend. It becomes a shared experience, a way for people to connect with something that feels both deeply personal and universally profound. Ultimately, Bigfoot represents a paradox. It is a creature of the wild, yet it lives in the human imagination. It is elusive, yet omnipresent. It is a mystery that may never be solved, yet it continues to inspire people to search. In this way, Bigfoot is not just a legend, it is a reflection of who we are. It reminds us that the unknown is not something to fear, but something to cherish, a space where wonder thrives and where the human spirit can dream of what might be. Bigfoot's legacy endures not because it has been found, but because it hasn't. It is the footprint that disappears into the forest, the shadow that moves just beyond the light. It is a symbol of our deepest fears and our greatest hopes, a cultural mirror that reflects our enduring need to believe in something larger than ourselves. In the end, Bigfoot is not just a story, it is a part of us, and it will remain so, as long as we continue to seek the extraordinary in the world around us.